So today we have with us a software engineer, Aleksandar Zedi. Am I pronouncing your name right?
Correct. But please, for future reference, please call me Alex. That's perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Thank you for agreeing to participate in this podcast for our students at Sussex Business School.
Pleasure's all
For
mine. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. So today we are speaking about interviewing process. We have recently discussed in class how to map different processes. And one of the examples we have from previous years is very simplified example of interviewing and hiring process that I have presented to you. When you look at it, how does it seem to you? Is it too simple?
Um, it's not the fact that it's simple. It's perfectly fine and adequate in most cases. But I would highlight that not every company, not every startup, not every LLC has the same workflow that you outline. What you outline is perfectly, again, I wouldn't classify it as simple. It's standard.
Mhm.
It's widely used, but again, I would say it's only used in half of all interviews. The other half is much more. It's even more simpler, but that's very rare. That's very, very rare. That's mainly the case if you are being presented to the company that you're applying for the position with via a reference from somebody within the
Mhm.
company, specifically somebody within the hiring process, a recruiter or a business manager, a product owner, or somebody from the C-level suite. But in
So
the
through the
other
process of
cases,
headhunting, yeah.
yeah, basically. But from the other part, it's much more complex, unfortunately. And as time goes by, it's getting more convoluted and more complex, not the other way around, and it should be.
Okay, that's a really good point, Alex. Thank you. So, um, I know from our previous conversation that you are very engaged in that process since you have been hunting for a really suitable position for you. So, can you refer to the last experience and start from the beginning when you saw the ad? Where did you saw the advertisement? See the advertisement, and what happened after that?
So yeah, you're correct. I'm currently in the process of finding a new job position, and during my process for in the past, I would say 2 3 weeks. So I've gone through several different paths. Sorry, I've taken several different paths. Um, I'm going to reference like the last one. So the last one was very non-standard, where usually the when you apply for a job through, in this example, I'm going to be using LinkedIn. So you see a job posting on LinkedIn, you apply, you fill out a basic form, some time passes by, and if the recruiting team sees you as a potential fit, they will contact you. They will schedule a very short meeting. This is usually between 15 and 30 minutes. Sometimes it takes longer, but that's, I would say, the approximate average, around 30 minutes. During this call, it's basically called a introductory call, where they get to know you a little bit better. You get to find out about the company and about the position in more details, and you can ask questions that you think are relevant for you, that are not posted on the job ad itself. And I would highly advise everybody listening that read very, very, very carefully what the job posting is. Use LLMs and AI tools to help you if you're not well versed in finding keywords like strategy or high paced. Avoid jobs that use these words. These are usually jobs that will require you to work more than the what I call the classic 9 to 5, um, without compensation. This is something that I can, like a pro tip that I can give you right away. So after that introductory call, I was given a short challenge to complete by myself. This
Can we just pause for a second?
Sure.
What do you think was the point of this introductory call? What they were trying to see in you as a potential candidate in order to reach the step 2, as you said, the short challenge?
So usually recruiters take this time to find out if the person who sent in their CV and who filled out the initial form is the person that they're talking to, basically. Usually once you get that like introductory call or interview, you're most likely 90% going to be invited to the next step. It's basically, like I said, just an introduction. And usually these recruiters, the person who's interviewing you is somebody within the HR department. So they have a degree in psychology. They understand social cues, emotional intelligence, and similar things, so they can read a person fairly well. And I use the term fairly loosely. Once, yeah, unfortunately, so once they've established that you're compatible, let's say, with the human reference model, as they call it in the industry, which basically means that a person has to have at least has to have good English skills. Is the person that's completed the initial step and is applying for the job. Basically, after that, you'll get invited to the next step. For me, this next step, like I said, was basically a short challenge lasted about 1 hour. This was done through an online platform where you're not allowed, like you are monitored by an AI tool so that you do not switch tabs, you do not check your phone, anything like that. Now, if your eyes, for instance, stray away too much from your screen, you are given like a warning not to do this. So again, so for future reference, to anybody listening, if the company has this process, do not agree to this process. This is a horrible testing method, mainly because this doesn't prove anything. At your current job, at the job that you're applying, at the job that you are applying, when you get the job, you'll have all the tools at your disposal, basically. And this process strictly, and I do really strictly, enforces the public school model, where your problem solving skills are not put to the challenge, but rather how good your memory is. This is
Because you're not
literally
allowed to use tools that you're supposed to use later on.
And you'll be using them all the time. So basically, a friendly advice. So if a company has this testing model, do not agree to a second interview. So again, pro tip, on the introduction interview, ask them in detail what the next steps are. And if at any time through your X number of steps, at any point, if they change how your interviews are going to be held, again, this is a huge red flag. Do not engage further. Find another job, basically. Is in my case, after I completed this initial testing, because they were not honest about how this testing was going to be conducted. I thought it was going to be a live coding interview where basically you and at least one other person from their team do some live coding. Basically, they give you you share a screen. They give you on a platform where you can write your code. Then you basically talk through it, what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're going to solve this problem. You can use whatever tool you want. You can literally ask your friend. Doesn't matter. Just as long as they see your thought process. This is the best way to see whether or not an engineer, I'm strictly speaking from an engineer perspective, is capable of solving problems. And as somebody who, within my current capacity, conducts these interviews, this is the main thing that we need to look out for. People, so engineers that can solve problems. I don't care how you solve it. I just need you
Exactly.
to solve the problem
The
in a
solving
specific
problem skill. That's it. So after
yeah,
this
basically.
first challenge, what happens after it? What's their goal? To see how good your memory is, as you mentioned?
I have no idea, Adele.
Mm.
Your guess is as good as mine. Whoever came up with this hasn't got a clue how to hire good engineers. That's my honest opinion. And
Very snappy
even though,
engineering one. Good one.
yes, and even though I passed, I after that I sent him an email stating that I will not be participating further down the line because I do not
Hmm.
like. It's not that they lied; they just didn't give me all the information, even though I asked.
Hmm. So you
So
didn't
that
go
also
further with
gives
the
you,
next interviews?
yeah,
Okay. But let's speak about one successful example now,
of
about
course.
one where you reached the proposal for the job position you applied for. Can we address that one?
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently, as we speak, and in the process of accepting an offer. So this is a perfect example of how a good line of interviews, testing methods for a job position should go. Again, um, there was a ad on LinkedIn. I applied. They reached out within 2 business days. That's a
Mm-hmm.
very good sign. If, for instance, a company reaches out to you within 2 weeks or more, uh, that means that you were bottom of the barrel, as they say,
Mm-hmm.
and that
You're their
most
backup
like
option.
a backup of a backup of a backup, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's not because, and usually it's because the better ones did not accept the offer because it was too low. This
Mm-hmm.
is a proven concept, especially if you're applying for large companies like
Mm-hmm.
5, 10,000 people or something like that. Again, avoid these companies. Like if you have no
Mm-hmm.
choice, that's perfectly fine. So basically, they replied within 1 to 2 business days. We scheduled an introductory call. We got to know each other a little better. They explained how the company works, how it's structured. I didn't see or hear any red flags during this interview because they were completely open and honest about who they are, what they do, how they treat their employees, what the salary expectations and range is. If during the first interview you should ask about the salary, how much you want to be compensated, and if they are not open or forthright with you, again, do not proceed further down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Clear red flag. They were. We proceeded to the next interview because, again, usually you are going to be contacted within 1 to 2 business days after your initial interview with some feedback, positive or
Mm-hmm.
negative. You're going to be contacted again. If this process takes 2 weeks, again, clear indication of the company doesn't know how to handle their recruit process correctly. They do not see people as a they see people as a literally as a resource, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
This company contacted me that day. So the
Mm-hmm.
interview was in the morning around 10, 11. They contacted me at 3 p.m., stating that they were delighted with the call and they wanted to proceed further. The secondary part was a takeaway challenge, basically for web developers and web engineers within IT. This means you're given an assignment, a challenge to solve within your own time. You have a
Mm-hmm.
specific number of days to complete it. This is always negotiable. Even if the challenge says you have 2 days to complete this, negotiate. That's the whole
Mm-hmm.
point. They um, always negotiate with the company. If they say 2, you say 4. Doesn't matter why. You don't need to explain yourself why. You just say private matters. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Never explain yourself to a company. Um, I negotiated for I think a week or something like that because I
Mm-hmm.
literally told them I have private obligations. These are movable. After I've completed the challenge, it was assessed by one of their engineers. I was called in for a secondary interview with the engineer who assessed my work. There was, I think, one other engineer on the call. We basically had a technical interview. So this is a oral interview, so nothing is written, basically, where we discussed what I did, how I did, why I did it, why I didn't do it this way or like that. Basically, the idea of this call is to see if I'm the person who wrote this code. So they
Okay.
really test your knowledge. They can ask obscure facts like when was the internet invented. I'm just kidding. No, I mean they ask you about the work that you submitted, basically, and
Mhm.
they can also ask you questions regarding some of the key points that were outlined on the job posting. So basically, if a job posting says your responsibilities in this role is going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, doesn't matter what they are, they will most likely ask questions within the realm of these key points.
Oh, so to
After
summarize steps we mentioned here, in intro interview, that was again confirming that you are a person who applied, that your English level, knowledge level is up to the certain point they require. Then you had a takeaway challenge. And then in this second interview with the engineers, especially, I assume they were confirming that you did the challenge, but also challenging, asking questions that might confuse you, where somebody with lower level of knowledge would get confused, but somebody who's very well informed would actually tell them, okay,
correct.
that's not the way to do this because of these issues that might occur later on in the software application. And they were asking about requirements connected to the technical issues.
Yes, correct. So
Oh,
basically, they will ask you, and this is something that I do as well. Usually, when a company posts a job posting, this is specific for a project that you're going to be working on. So look at a project as a problem to be solved. So they will ask you key points on how to solve specific problems within the project. So they've already outlined the project, and the project is to build something, doesn't matter what it is. So they'll ask you, let's say that you have this project, how would you build X or Y, and why
mm,
and how? Again, they want to test to see how you solve problems, how you can handle. And during these kind of questions, you should be allowed to Google, check resources, whatever you like, basically.
mhm,
Um, Usually the interviewer will allow this, but also given my track record, I prefer not to, because these are some of the things that you should already know.
mhm,
And if you don't, that's perfectly fine.
mhm,
That doesn't mean you're not going to get the job.
mhm.
So
As long as you
basically,
know where to
after
find it, if that's
yeah,
something
exactly,
challenging.
exactly. So if I ask you, let's say that this project has a problem, how to connect two bits, how would you connect them? I just want to see your reasoning and your assessment skills. I
Mhm,
want to see how you think. I want to see how you would, especially how you would solve um, difficult problems and difficult questions, and how you would handle yourself in that scenario. That's
mhm.
the goal of the interview, basically.
That's a
After this,
good point.
yeah. So after this interview, I was given another interview because
Mhm,
even though I applied for a certain position, they saw that I had potential for a more demanding position. So they asked
mhm,
me if I wanted to have another interview where they would again test my technical skills and also my social skills. And for this specific role, I agreed, of course. We had that interview. It again went successful. And after that, I think it was like 2 or 3 days later, I got the offer.
mhm,
Usually at this point, when you get the offer, you before you get the offer, you might have another meeting. So not an interview, basically a meeting where you would meet somebody from the C level. So this would usually be the CEO, CTO, and this is only for like smaller companies. So like
Mhm.
startups or companies that have up to like 100 maybe employees, something like that. You should always aim for these kind of companies because they know
Mhm.
how to treat people better, and they have more experience with that, and they have better pay.
Mhm.
Usually, yeah. So I had this interview with the CTO and CEO. Well, basically, they just wanted to meet me in person, but in person, as they say. We had just a short chat, about 30 minutes, of who I am, what I'm going to bring to the company, etc., etc., etc. So you don't have to worry about these kind of meetings. They're just a meeting, an introduction of some sort. Just be relaxed and be yourself. Don't try to
Mhm.
impress anybody. You're not. You already impressed the people that you needed to impress during the interview. If you got to this point, you just need
Mhm.
to be relaxed and literally have a conversation with a couple of interesting people. That's it. That's how
Mhm.
you have to look at it. I'm not here to impress. I'm just here to have fun and have a conversation. They might ask me something technical or challenging. Usually they do not. So
Mhm.
just have fun, basically.
Mhm. And then when you get the offer, how does it go further? They made an offer. Can you actually negotiate what's in the offer, and how
Of
does
course.
the further process go?
Yeah, of course. You can always negotiate on the offer, and I actually advise you do, even small things.
Mhm.
This will give you a great insight as to how flexible the company is. You want a company that's not too flexible, so not that gives into demands, basically.
Mhm.
But basically, so if you're asking, let's say that you want $50 an hour or pounds, euros, doesn't really matter what the currency is. Let's just focus on the number. Let's say that you want 50 of some currency per hour, but they're offering 42, 44. It's perfectly reasonable to ask something like that. I would go even a little further, ask for a little more, so like 53.
Mhm.
Always choose an odd number, like 53,
Awesome.
because that gives you, as they say, wiggle room to negotiate for the number that you actually want. Because usually companies will tend to meet you in the middle. So if they offer you 44, 45, you want 50, offer them 53, 54, something like that, you will always kind of meet each other in the middle around the 50 mark that you
Mhm.
wanted. Most other things are non-negotiable. So like you can negotiate, for instance, time, flexibility of your schedule, how you do things, when you do things. If they offer you, for instance, a 9 to 5, you want to work from 8 to 4, that's perfectly fine and reasonable. You should ask for that. Actually, do not ask them for it. That's another key point. Never ask a company for something. You already deserve it. That it's your time. You can state that even though you appreciate their offer, but the 9 to 5 doesn't suit you. You would
Mhm.
prefer an 8 to 4 or a 10 to 6. Doesn't really matter. Just as long
Mhm.
as it's not something too outlandish, like, oh, I only work 2 hours a day from 12 to 2 p.m. Something,
Yeah.
something like that. I mean, we all wish that we would, but hey, that's not gonna happen. So
It would
that
be nice.
those like
Full
yeah,
salary
yeah,
for that
base
amount.
yeah, oh yeah, definitely. So those small changes to the offer that those are perfectly fine. So basically, but these aren't really the offer; these are the contract that you'll be signing. But
Mhm.
usually, these things are always stated in the offer as well, as like
Mhm.
a reminder.
Mhm. So this is entire process, and now you have negotiated that, and you're being hired for the position, even higher position than you anticipated, and that's I think that's very successful process. That sounds really good for you.
It's interesting, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see because, like I said, I'm on both ends. So I'm currently seeking new opportunities outside my current capacity, and while in my current capacity, I am still serving as a member of the technical board that assesses your technical skills. and even
Mm-hmm.
your social skills as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
no matter how good you are at your job as an engineer, and you need good social skills, basically,
Yeah.
because no matter how good you can combine two numbers, you still
Mm-hmm.
need to be social
Teamwork.
enough to
Yeah.
explain to your colleagues why you did this approach, and especially, like, I'm gonna cut it short. Leave your ego at the door. No matter,
Exactly.
doesn't matter who you are. You can, like, I have 12 years of experience in my profession. I can still learn from somebody that's fresh out of college. And
Exactly. That's
if
the
you don't
teamwork.
have this, yes, if you don't have this
I'm really glad you
mentality,
mentioned this because this is something that we're emphasizing to students how important it is to be able to work in the team, to collaborate, to actually help each other.
exactly, you're all in this together. And like I said, you always need, no matter how good you are, uh, there's always somebody who's going to be better. And even even if that's not the case, you don't know everything. There's something that another person will know that you won't. Appreciate that person for that. Not
That's a
as
really good
a,
point.
yeah, don't see that person as a obstacle or a rival or anything like that. Unfortunately, some of people are like that. Um,
Mm-hmm. And that's a really negative attitude, definitely something to
yeah,
avoid. And now I'm
yeah.
aware of our time limitations, so I want to be appreciative of it. I have one last question, and then you can go to your meetings. So in any of these steps, interviews, meetings, besides them confirming that you are who you are, your English skills is on the certain level, your technical and problem solving skills are up to certain level, do they ask you some questions to get to know you as a person? And in which step is that happening? Like about your hobbies or something like that?
Yeah,
Relaxed
that's a very good
conversation.
question. Yeah, that's a very good question.
Thank you.
Yes and no. Some do, some don't. Basically, there's no rule to that. Some people, uh, some companies care, some don't. For instance, when I do my technical assessments of you, just to, I don't straight away go into technical questions right away. I like
Mm-hmm.
to get to know the person know a little better. So if the interview is 1 hour, I'll take 10 to 15 minutes to get to know you a little better, because that relaxes you a little bit. That puts
Mm-hmm.
the candidate into a more relaxed mood. That sees that the interviewer is not somebody who's going to be here to judge them, but
Yeah.
who's interested into getting to know them, finding a little bit about themselves, and generally a friendly, open, and nice person to have a
Acknowledging
chat
them as
with.
a person, not only as an employee. That's a good approach.
Yeah, exactly.
And
So
in this
if I
process,
ask
when you
you,
were, yeah, sorry, in this process when you were hired, were they doing that? And in which step, if so?
all steps,
All. Mm-hmm.
yeah, all
Confirming.
steps. That's why I liked the company and decided to move forward past the first um,
Mm-hmm.
past the first step, especially
That's
the
great.
last step where I met with the um, what I would
CTO
call
and CEO.
the core team,
Mm.
which consisted
Mm.
of 5 members. They were all nice and friendly. Nothing technical spoken. Basically, it was just like a round of drinks with friends. But you're
Uh-huh.
getting to know each other a little bit better. So it's like, what do you like to do? What are your hobbies? Oh, you like cooking and hiking? Yeah, tell us about it. Like we do as well. And basically, you
Mm-hmm.
just have like I said, you just have a conversation. That's it.
Oh, that was your third interview for a higher position testing. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Alex, for your time today. I wish you a pleasant rest of the day and a nice weekend ahead. I hope you go for a hiking for this weekend. And I would
Thanks.
like to thank you in front of all of our students from Sussex.
Adela, thank you very much for having me. It was a real pleasure talking to you. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any more questions. I would love if you do. I have a lot of experience in this field, so if you ever need anybody to talk to again regarding this process, yeah, feel free to reach out. It was a pleasure to have this chance to talk with you, and Hi, everybody in Sussex.
You.
Bye.